Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Hey guys, before we get going, I want to let you know over on my Twitter page, @Broads81, at the top of my profile, there's a pinned tweet. Every Wednesday, I do a Hump Day giveaway, and this week I'm giving away an outstanding Eagles windbreaker pullover that you will not want to miss. So make sure you enter to win. It's so simple. You follow me and you retweet that tweet. Bang. Next Wednesday, I pick the winner. And oh, by the way, I'm just saying, you don't want to miss next week's giveaway either. So stay engaged, get involved. You will not want to miss it. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Wow, what an emotional day when it comes to the NBA trade deadline and then beating the Lakers, although it got way too close in that fourth quarter. They got outscored by 10, and Danny Green bailed them out once again. This isn't the first time that Danny Green had to bail out the squad. That's exactly what happened, and I love the fact that it's Danny Green because of all the morons that just wanted to ship his ass out of town because he went through a little bit of a funk where he wasn't making his shots, but we knew that he was such a professional, such a veteran, and he had such a big track record of success. We knew the logicals out there understood that he would find himself again and he would be such an important piece to this team, and that's exactly what you saw. Think about this. Danny Green thought that he would be traded today, at least thought that there was a potential chance to get traded today. So he beat that. The 3 o'clock deadline came down, and it's not as if 3 o'clock comes around and here comes 3:15, 3:30, 3:45, 3:50, everything after the deadline with the air quotes. Things happen after that, of course, but once he realized he wasn't going to be moved on and he was going to stay, he dodged a bullet. He ends up getting his championship ring out in L.A., and you saw his face when he realized, damn, look at this beautiful thing in my hands and on my finger. Not that he doesn't have any others, because that's the type of champion he is, and that's why I valued him so much, which is ridiculous that some people didn't see that aspect of Danny Green, but I digress. And then you saw him drop 8 threes. 8 threes! He was dynamite. Not only that crucial shot late in the corner in the fourth quarter to solidify the win and bring this squad home, but not literally home. They still have plenty of games left on the road, but to get that W, to secure the bag, if you will, as the kids say these days. He was so clutch early in that third quarter. The first quarter was boring, or the first half, I should say, was very boring, very choppy, and it's because of the referees and how disgusting they were. The fact that Dwight Howard got kicked out of that game, that's an embarrassing call. It really is. The refereeing was pathetic. They also called that technical foul on Schroeder late in the game for showing some emotion, and I agree with Reggie Miller, who said this on the broadcast. Let these guys play. Let them have a little bit of emotion. It's not like he's screaming the F-bomb at the refs and getting in their face. He was unhappy with the call, right or wrong about the call. For him to do a couple hops and to grab the basketball, okay, relax. He didn't go overboard. All around, too many technicals, and the fact that Dwight Howard got kicked out of the game for Harrell being the one that pushed him, you can't do that. Now, was he leading them on a little bit? Was Dwight Howard leading him on by putting his hands up and bumping into him as he was going back to the bench during a timeout? Sure. But once again, let these guys have a little bit of emotion. It wasn't getting out of hand. These guys weren't throwing elbows to the face and giving some serious full-on punches. They were playing a little tough. They were playing with a little bit of attitude. So let them. Now, Doc Rivers said this during the game when he was getting interviewed with the broadcast. He didn't like it, and he actually called both of those kind of clowning around a bit. They were being clowns out there, and even after the game, Doc Rivers mentioned it again, that he thought it was very selfish of Dwight Howard, and I would agree with that assessment for sure. You got to recognize time, and you got to be aware of what's going on with your roster right now. You traded for George Hill and got Tony Bradley, and I will talk about that more as we continue to kind of dissect what happened all around in this wild day during the NBA trade deadline, of course. But you move on from Tony Bradley. You do not have Joel Embiid. You have Paul Reed, which is fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's an MVP How about that? G League MVP, and he's going to give you some explosive minutes, exciting minutes. He'll give you that energy bunny kind of thing, that energizer bunny. That's what he will provide. He'll provide that spark for you. And we know that Ben Simmons can play the 5, and you can try and use Mike Scott as much as possible, but he has become an absolute disaster out there, and he looks lost as hell, and I don't think there's ever coming back for Mike Scott here with this team. It's just too far gone. You can realize when his shots are 7 feet wide, it's all right, Mike. So Dwight Howard needs to recognize time. He needs to be aware of the roster, and he needs to know that the team needs him. So that was a very selfish thing to do, putting his hands up, getting in the face. That's what Dwight Howard is, though. He is that player that plays on the edge, and he is that player that sparks the team by being a little bit of an attitude, being a little bit of a force. Before Mike Scott turned into a nobody here, why do we love him? The Mike Scott hive. He'll get in your face. He'll be annoying. He brings that swag to your team. He brings that toughness to your team. That's what Dwight Howard does. So when Harrell's doing things and he wants to match that intensity, I want him to do that. But you also need to know where the line is, and you can't go overboard. Now, to be fair, did he actually cross the line? Not really. Not really. That's more of the refereeing making such a bad judgment call, more so than Dwight Howard going a little bit too far. A shoulder nudge in the NBA. That's where we're at now. Where a shoulder nudge in the NBA at that point in the game got Dwight Howard kicked out. I mean, it truly is a joke, but I guess it is what it is, and the Sixers found a way. But when you have Ben Simmons playing the 5, you did see some good passes involved. That nice touch pass, bringing it back to Danny Green. He was in the corner. Ben's trying to post up and move a defender, and he just does a nice touch pass. And he also had an outstanding play on the defensive end, which led to another Danny Green 3. This is all in that third quarter where they outscored the Los Angeles Lakers 35-17. So that was big. The Sixers defense recorded 13 steals, had 9 blocks. But that fourth quarter, you're going to allow a team without Anthony Davis and without LeBron James to score 30 points on you. I think you needed to do a better job. That's when Harrell came alive a bit, and Danny Green did secure this one for you, and it could have got real ugly, could have got real shaky. And when you look at Ben Simmons' game as a whole, because when we talk about late game situations, and when you talk about fourth quarters, and when you talk about close game and half-court sets, yeah, Ben Simmons is going to be a topic. Now, he did not have a good game shooting the basketball. There's no denying that. He was flat out bad in that area, but he was aggressive. So he was really terrible from the field in the first half, but he went to the free throw line 8 times in that first half, which showed he was willing to attack who was ever in his way. If it was Kuzma, if it was Harrell, he would lower the shoulder and make sure he would get to the charity stripe. I like that. That is very important to me. But I did think it got sloppy. There was that inbound pass where he tried to put it into Tobias Harris in the post in that area where Tobias Harris was constantly putting his back to the basket. It got picked off by Kuzma. There goes the Lakers the other way, and it's just something that is noticeable every time when you're talking about close games, fourth quarter. How about this? He's right underneath the basket with 1 minute to go, and you need a big bucket, and instead of going up with the basketball, he kicks it out to Mike Scott out by the perimeter. It's like, yo, Ben, like you're right there, dude. That's what you need to think about when we talk about big picture with Ben. And somebody tweeted this out at me during the game. I can't wait to see how Broads is going to rip Ben Simmons apart after the game. Look at his defense. It's so special. Yes, Ben Simmons' defense is so special. So why can you notice how important that is to the game, but also not look at how important the other part of the game is? Now, he did so many things out there. How many assists did he finish with? 12. He grabbed rebounds, right? So there was a lot in play. He finished with 12 free throws, but that's because he grabbed a rebound with about 24 seconds left when the game was essentially over, and he got fouled there intentionally, and he did make his free throw, so I'm not going to knock the guy completely, but in terms of mentality of putting my shoulder down and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make the other team have to foul me, that was only 10, not really 12, but 10 is still good. 10 is a number that I'm satisfied with, but there are still errors with Ben Simmons late in games with the basketball. But look, this Sixers team shot the ball an insane amount of times from deep. 45 to be exact. And that's a lot for this team. It's a significant amount for this squad. And I wonder if there's this mentality switch that they're trying to do, or was it just because of the way that the Lakers defended them? You saw so many times them try and double Tobias Harris. And while I respect what Tobias Harris has been this year, and there's no doubt that he was getting to areas on the floor that he liked to operate, and he would back up and he'd use his back to the basket, and then he would face up and he would take that jump shot, that mid-range jump shot, right around 10 feet or so. Like, he finds his comfortable spots on the floor, and he was very efficient. 8 of 10 for 17 points, and he did have a really crucial bucket with just a handful of minutes left. Tough defense, in his face, hand in his face, went right over the top, right over the defense, and bang, nothing but 2 points for the squad. That was very important. So while he was very efficient tonight, I do think that double teaming Tobias Harris the way that they did go overboard. I'm not going to sell out to double Tobias Harris to allow Danny Green and Seth Curry to have all these wide open looks. So I thought that it was somewhat of a really bad philosophy by the Lakers to go with that approach, at least to the level that they were doing it so much. Like, I respect Tobias, and I'm a fan of his work this year, and I'm pumped up that he has really molded into this guy that you can rely on, but to the point where I am going to nonstop really dissect heavily that double team and bring that deep double team and allow Danny Green and Seth Curry to get wide open. I'll live with Tobias Harris taking tough shots, taking tough mid-range jumpers, and putting his back to the basket, working to get his spots. Tobias Harris does have a track record of having a little bit of some tough stretches and some bad moments, and, you know, it's not Joel Embiid. Like, I can understand doubling Joel and doubling Kevin Durant and doubling Giannis and doubling these lethal stars every single possession when they're out there offensively getting the rock in their hands. But to me, personally, I'll live with Tobias. But clearly they didn't like a matchup that they had out there, and that's one of the reasons why they made that transition to do that. And, you know, I saw the Sixers bring a little bit of a different look that made the Lakers a little uncomfortable in that third quarter, but that's also a product of not having Anthony Davis, not having LeBron James. This team was lost. You can only do so much with Schroeder and Marc Gasol coming back and having some limited minutes, and Kyle Kuzma playing, and Caruso coming into play. Like, I felt, while I was very impressed with the Sixers' defense in the third quarter was something that stood out to me, I also thought that some of it was just, look, you're out of whack. You're out of funk. And the Sixers without Joel Embiid, and they've been doing it without Embiid and Seth Curry, they've had some issues, and they've been able to find a way to overcome that. They faced the adversity, and they've been able to lock in wins, so it's no excuse. And I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I do think that this win loses a bit of power when you don't have LeBron, when you don't have Anthony Davis. Like, this team is a completely different identity with those players involved compared to them not being involved, and you're just seeing that as the Lakers continue to play games, and they continue to have really tough stretches and really tough moments, and they can't dial into any sort of offensive sets, and they struggle in that area. They were talking about it on the broadcast, how these teams are so great defensively. Well, think about what Anthony Davis and LeBron James brings to your squad from that element as well. And I know LeBron might not be the 26, 27, 28-year-old version of himself defensively, but still, I mean, you put those two players out there, and there's a huge difference on what they bring. So when I see the Sixers explode for 35 points in that third quarter, and they were drilling their threes, it's, that's definitely a product of that happening, those players not being available for the Lakers. All right, let's get to, I'm just looking around at some of the other things here. Like, Matisse Thybulle went 0 for 5 from 3, and when you see him make a couple threes, it's like, okay, there's a couple threes. And I just feel like his extremes are so out there right now. It's either there's a stretch of Matisse where he knocks down 4 3 attempts in a row. And I'm not saying in the same game because he doesn't normally put up that type of volume. But let's say in a couple games you see 4 threes in 6 attempts or 5 threes in 7 attempts out of Matisse Thybulle. It's like, wow, all right, Matisse seems to be getting into a groove. And then you get a game like tonight where he goes 0 for 5 and it's either ice cold or he's looking better and people are convinced he should be in the starting rotation. Everyone's aware of his defensive abilities and how he gets his hands all in there and he steals the basketball and he makes it hard for the opponent to get some sort of offense established. But let's not sell this team short on how important spacing is and getting those looks. Think about this. I just mentioned what you did to Tobias Harris all night long, right? You brought the double and you were ready to pounce on him. And it looked very similar to when Joel Embiid had the ball in the post. You would watch someone almost there, ready, just waiting for the right moment, and then they would attack and they would send some help and they would make it a tough decision for Joel Embiid to make, or it would be hard to pass out of the double team. Imagine the difference with Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle being out there by the perimeter. It's night and day. Night and day. And Danny Green still has some sort of defense left. It's not like you have Furkan Korkmaz out there when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. And by the way, all right, it's not just me. Let's be clear here, because I'm sure all you Furkan Korkmaz fanboys are also fans of Daryl Morey, right? But when the acquisition came down of George Hill, what was one of the things that Daryl Morey said? I'll wait for it. I'll sit here and wait for it. Oh, that's right. I don't want to have any holes on that defensive side of the floor. I don't want to have someone that gets picked apart where teams are licking their chops going after one guy and targeting a guy defensively on that side of the floor. Who do you think that is? I mean, really, who do you think that is? And you saw that specifically. The Lakers ended the first half on a 9-0 run. What happened? Here's Furkan at the top of the perimeter, one-on-one matchup. Dude gets exploited easily, not even a competition, blown right by, easy bucket. The score is tied 54-54. All right, so I don't think it's ironic that Daryl Morey makes that type of statement. I wonder what he was talking about. Okay, it's not just me. The one of the best president of basketball operations has the same mindset, people. So it's pretty damn clear what he was targeting and what he was saying during that time when it comes to getting a one player exposed out there defensively, all right? That's reality of the situation. And saying the situation like that, considering I've been crushing a lot of Jersey Shore right now. I'm on season 4. I've been cruising. They're in Italy right now. When I say the situation like that, all I can picture is Mike. But anyway, no one cares about Jersey Shore except for myself, and that's why I continue to watch it nonstop, and I'll watch 10 episodes a day, it feels like, at this point. When you have a George Hill, and let's talk about what happened with the trade deadline today. So you saw reports during it all that they're 1 yard line away, or they're at the 1 yard line for Kyle Lowry. And there were reports that Tyrese Maxey, Shake Milton, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, a couple second-round picks. Jesus Christ, bros, get it together here. Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, couple first-round picks was what Toronto wanted, and Daryl Morey wasn't crossing the line, and they were pretty firm on what they were going to offer, and if that wasn't the case, if Toronto wasn't happy with that, they would move in another direction. So they ended up going the George Hill route, and I saw both options as reasonable. I could support the logic for both of those options. I was screaming for George Hill for the last couple of weeks, specifically on Coffee with Broads, which is 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., live streamed on YouTube, Twitter, @Broads81, and Twitch. I was asked that this morning while the trade deadline was still a hot item. Broads, what do you think is going to happen? What's your gut feel? And I said, if I'm going to tell you what I honestly think is going to occur, it's probably going to be a George Hill and another player. Now, there wasn't another player involved. I wish they could have got a Larry Nance Jr. or something of that nature, but there's still a buyout market in play. So if they go out and improve with the buyout market piece and they add George Hill, that's exactly something that I could think can benefit this basketball team. And with George Hill, you have this dynamic now of a secondary ball handler that you can utilize in strong ways. And maybe that could even help Shake Milton become a better version of himself, because I don't think this point guard role is exactly what he's good at, and he seems to have more of that scorer mentality, not so much the facilitating mentality, and maybe playing with the George Hill or George Hill coming off the bench and George Hill giving you that secondary ball handling minutes would allow Shake Milton to get back into his groove, who he wants to be, and instead of trying to slow things down and run the offense perfectly, he can worry about scoring and slashing and attacking the rim, and when he does have the ball, maybe he can explode to the rim, finish with the left hand, finish with both hands, whatever, you name it. Maybe Shake Milton can just have a different mentality, a different approach to the game that would allow him to get more comfortable with what his identity should be. So I support the logic behind this team, and I think George Hill is a great acquisition. It fills a big hole. I think I want one more piece, though, in this buyout market. And they have a roster spot for a reason. There is something available for a reason. So I expect that to happen. And I think when you look at the squad and how they play when they're healthy with the starting five of Ben Simmons, Danny Green, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, there's a reason why they're at the top of this league. There's a reason why when they're at the top of the Eastern Conference specifically, they're playing around the best with the Utah Jazz right now. But when you see that, and when you see Danny Green play in this way, and when you see the way that this team has a fire lit under them and the fire in their eyes is serious, well, maybe you use that to your advantage. Say, I want to keep this team together. I love this team. Doc Rivers has this team playing very well. Everyone's balling at the best of their capability. Daryl Morey understands that, and he's communicating with Doc Rivers. Hey, what are you thinking? What do you think we should do? What do you think the best move is? What do you think about keeping Danny Green? Should we stick with Danny Green? And I think once you get to this point and you're playing so well, there's so much value in keeping a player like Danny Green. And not saying that if Danny Green left here and Kyle Lowry came in, that it would be an absolute disaster or a huge culture shift, because Kyle Lowry is a champion. Kyle Lowry is a phenomenal player. He's a defensive workhorse, which is so big and monstrous for the identity of this team. And he can be a primary ball handler as well. So that is in play. So I don't think he's a leader. He's a veteran. He's got a lot of respect in this league. He's been around the block for quite some time. So everyone looks at him with a very respectful view. So that wouldn't change from that aspect. But just going through war with a player like Danny Green forever and just swapping him out like that after being so strong, it would be different if the team wasn't having success, if they were underachieving. Then it's, we got to make a change. But to move such an important piece of your team, not the best person on your team, but a very, very, very important piece vocally, professionally, and spacing the floors X and O type of player as well. What would that do? What would that do for the dynamic of the team and the way that everyone seems to love each other right now? And the culture of the squad is everyone's rolling and everyone understands that there is this brotherhood that really takes them to the next step and it takes them to the next level. When everyone's on the same page and everyone feels like, hey, this is a family, which it does seem that way right now, you get the best version of yourself and you get the best version of basketball, and that's why we're kind of seeing it. Now, real quick before we get to the Anytime Hotline, I thought that there were some interesting remarks about George Hill starting, coming off the bench, and as if it was ever even a possibility, as if it was ever even really a question. I thought it was a no-brainer that he would be coming off the bench and not being a starter. But let me see if I could specifically find the quote on George Hill from Doc Rivers. I'm going to type it in here and see if it pops up. If not, it's not a huge deal, but I was a little shocked about it. Let's see here. Sixers coach Doc Rivers said George Hill will probably come off the bench. He's just a solid veteran, just a guy you would love to have on your team. Solid defensively and shoots the heck out of the ball. Yeah, that is monstrous for sure. But just the fact that he probably will come off the bench. Yeah, see, even a couple people here are tweeting about it. I thought that this would be common knowledge. But maybe there's something to do with, as I alluded to, with the half-court problems in the playoffs with Ben Simmons. Maybe you see a situation where down the stretch, guess who's out there running your offense? It's George Hill. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't come off the bench and then be a guy that is useful in the fourth quarter. Of course, that could be the case. But normally, by that time in a playoff game, your starters are all out there, and you're playing all your starters. And who would come off the floor in that scenario when you need a bucket and things of that nature? Look, there's so much that you'll have more context. You'll see what happened in other playoff series. You'll see adjustments other teams made. So we'll have more knowledge of the situation as we see more games get played out. But I do find it fascinating that it's not automatic. Like, he'll probably come off the bench. And what do you mean? Like, I thought it was inevitable. By the way, the tournament is in full swing, and the action hasn't disappointed. There's been so many upsets. Oral Roberts, I can't wait for this weekend for March Madness to return. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. Bet $1 on any tournament game, and if your team wins, you win $100. It's that simple. Turning $1 into $100 is 100-1 odds. Pick any college basketball team that's still in the hunt for your shot at winning $100. All it takes is $1 bet, and that team winning their next game. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code BROADS when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 if the college basketball team of your choosing pulls off the win. That's code BROADS to turn $1 into $100 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get to the Anytime Hotline. Let's hear the reactions after tonight's loss. Tonight's loss. Dude, what the hell is wrong with me? That's how you know it's 1:30 in the morning right now. I was going to say it's very late. Once again, we're getting attacked with a lot of phone calls afterwards, which I love. It shows the dedication and the love of this basketball team to stay up so late and to call in afterwards. But yeah, let's rephrase that and say it the right way. Let's see how people thought about this victory in LA.
Hey, Broads. Love what you do. Love everything about it. Keep up the good work, but wow, Ben Simmons. Whew. This dude blows. I mean, I wish I would do anything to get rid of him. I mean, I hate him. Furkan. Another game where, I mean, he was so-and-so, I guess. I mean, I hate him too. Mike Scott, Jesus, those two bricks just literally clanked off this backboard. Didn't even hit the rim. That was, oh my God, awful. Glad we closed it out. Tough game. We should have blew them out. I mean, no LeBron, no AD. Shouldn't even been close, but we'll take it.
See, this is where I'm like kind of lost and baffled because I'm someone that is hard on Ben Simmons. I'm hard on Ben Simmons because I understand his ceiling and I know how great he can be, and I see when he flashes it that it's in there, and he's not a player that it's like, I expect him to be a legitimate star in this league, a serious star, because he can be. There's a difference of seeing something in a player and saying, all right, but his ceiling is this. Ben Simmons and his ceiling is one of the best players in the league, so I hold him to a different standard. To start off a call by saying that Ben Simmons blows, I would do anything to get rid of this guy, you're going too far. You're going to an extreme. You're absolutely disrespecting him, and that's where I draw the line. So you can be fully understanding of how unbelievable this kid is defensively, and he makes game-changing plays defensively, and he can lock down Giannis one-on-one, which nobody in this league can do, and he brings such a stellar element to you, to your team. You can also see that there are problems offensively. He stinks at times. He doesn't look at the rim at times. He doesn't have great feel at times. And there's a problem there that I am worried about. But I also know that superstars like Joel Embiid, who are playing at that level, can overcome and can make your squad you can overcome flaws with your team when you have superstars playing at such an unbelievable level like Joel Embiid. And having that Robin like Tobias Harris, maybe Ben Simmons, you can just rely on that defense because you have other pieces surrounding Ben. You don't need him to be that full capability just yet because of where Joel is in his career and because of the season Tobias Harris is having. But to say he blows and he's a nobody and he's just a guy and he's awful, like, that's not true, right? So I feel my opinion is described differently based off of who I'm talking about, or who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to an individual like this caller, I am a Ben Simmons supporter. When I talk to the people that say, I can't believe you're going to rip him for his offensive night, look what he did on the defensive side of the floor, I become the Ben Simmons hater because you can't just look at half of the game. You have to look at the full picture of the game. So it really depends on who I'm talking to and what the reaction is about Ben Simmons, where I stand. Ben Simmons, there's a reason why there's only two guys that I mentioned during the earlier parts of the season that I would trade him for. That was James Harden. And by the way, the Rockets ended up getting no players for James Harden after all this, which is a disaster out of them. Of course, they got the picks and all, but seriously, did they butcher this whole nonsense? Could have had Ben Simmons is my point. James Harden. That's the type of player that Ben Simmons is in trade talks for. James Harden. Bradley Beal. That tells you everything you need to know. So, just a little frustrated with that first call, to be honest with you. But you're entitled to your own opinion. I just don't understand it.
Oh, my God, bros. I can't even wait till the game is over. Can someone tell Korkmaz and Mike Scott this is a professional basketball game, not a game of horse? Holy shit. How many air balls is Mike Scott going to shoot?
I don't know. I don't know, and I feel bad for Mike Scott at this point. I think all is lost. There's no way he's coming back this year. He's not going to find himself. This is truly what Mike Scott has been, and I think it started with the injury problem, and it kept coming, it kept reoccurring, and he kept having these injury issues, and then it snowballed into just a lot of confidence problems, and when you don't have confidence in this league, you become this. Now, it is surprising because when you have the type of career that you have when you're Mike Scott, he's been around the block, he's been on a lot of teams, he's had a nice role, like he's been around for a reason, right? How do you go from veteran who's been on a lot of teams and has had a solidified role for quite some time to not even knowing how to hit the rim? That's where I'm losing my marbles here. That's where I'm losing my mind. There's a difference between not having your shot and maybe coming up short and missing, but you're at least hitting the rim. He's not even close to anything. I mean, that's how you know mentally upstairs in his brain, nothing is registering at all. And is there some sort of pressure involved? Like, hey, I got to make sure I hit these shots because I know I'm losing my rotational minutes? I don't know. I'm looking for answers.
Danny Green, 28 points, 8 for 12 from 3. Sexy. And then we have Paul Reed jumping over everybody. Dwight Howard getting a jump. That was stupid, bro. Dwight Howard. That was soft, dude. And then Ben Simmons getting out 12 dimes. He did not have like the best offensive night, not making that many shots, but his dimes, getting rebounds, facilitating different things. Tobias Harris been really consistent all year. Chase Millen getting 12, but yeah, great win by the Sixers. Already 3-0 on the road. Let's see if they can get a couple more before they go back to Philadelphia here.
Yeah, look, the fact that they're winning all these road games, and that's been a problem in the past, and to start this road trip off the way that they did, yeah, it's very impressive, and it's almost like, all right, like if a loss comes here, it's like you set yourself up for whenever the next loss comes about, it's, hey, you've been fine to this point. It's like, you know what's going to happen. You're due at some point, but they're playing with house money. They keep stacking the wins. They keep stacking the cards. And I guess playing with house money at this point is the best way to describe it. Now, that doesn't mean they can go the rest of this road trip and fall off and we'd all be okay. But, look, at some point you are going to fall. And I don't even want to have that thought process. I guess that's such a bad way to look at it. This team is stacking the wins. They're playing good basketball. And you brought up Ben Simmons, though. And with Ben Simmons, he did take that 3. And it looked good. He looked good taking the 3 at the end of the first half. I mentioned when Furkan Korkmaz got abused. There was a couple seconds left. Ben Simmons runs the floor, gets to the three-point line, and takes it. And the ball went in and out and rimmed around. Oh, it would have been so nice for him to make it. He probably would have took another one in a second half position or maybe in a future game coming down the run here. But now that he misses it, maybe not. I just don't understand how it actually looks smooth and it looks like it's in rhythm and he looks confident with it, but you don't see it consistent enough. And, at this rate, it is what it is. I'm not banking on anything else to happen anymore. You just never know. You have no clue. There's no way, based off of the Ben Simmons three-point shooting track record, that you could ever apply one three-pointer, meaning there's another. You can never look at, well, he took one here. That means he's going to take one in the next game. Or he made a 3. That means he'll take another one. No, even when he makes 3s, you won't see another 3 for another 3,000 years. So you just have no clue what it means. And you'll never know when you'll see another one. But here's what I do know. They're looking better, and it looks like there's some style to it, and it doesn't look as trash. But here's one point I'll make on it, and I don't know how I'm going to somehow spin this positively, but here I am. It's now to the point where when he takes it, It's not all over social media. He's not getting rich. I mean, look, there's still some people that are going to do it just because they do it, but the national media attention of Ben Simmons taking that three-pointer, you're not going to open First Take with it. You're not going to open Get Up with it. You're not going to open sports talk radio shows with it. It's now becoming a thing where, yeah, you know what? Ben Simmons, once in a blue moon, takes them. He is going to let it fly once in a while. It's not this big drama storyline anymore, and I think that's a big part of why Ben was being so secure emotionally about it. No matter what he said, oh, I don't listen to people, I don't care. Stop it. We're human. We know how it is. And we understand that when there's a lot of people that are intensely looking at you, you're going to be a shell sometimes. And Ben Simmons is a shell when it comes to the three-point game. It's the only logical way to approach this. Why does this happen? Well, because there's a lot being said about him and the three-point shooting, and it gets to him. There's no denying it. But maybe when that dies off and he starts taking them and no one says anything, he takes another one, no one says anything, takes another, no one says anything, that's when it becomes more natural. But like I said, to this point, there's been no consistency with it.
Bro, really solid win tonight. As always, we don't put away teams when we should. So you just got to get used to it. Danny Green was incredible tonight. I think he had 28 points, essentially the game-clinching shot in his return. But I think the referees were so bad. To eject Dwight Howard, they're almost as bad as Mike Scott. To eject Dwight Howard for walking up to Montrezl Harrell, but then earlier in the season, LeBron James fully shoves Embiid when he's in midair, and that's perfectly legal.
I'm going to push back on the LeBron thing. I saw that all over Twitter afterwards, how this is a foul or how this is an ejection play and this one's not. I still think that LeBron James play is getting so overblown. With all due respect, it looked bad, and I understand that it looked bad, and Joel Embiid landed on his back the way that he did, and LeBron in that, he braced himself for it. And people act as if LeBron James legitimately, insanely used his arms and forearms and extended everything and pushed Joel Embiid to the ground in this scary, wild way. Here comes Joel Embiid, and LeBron James goes up like this, and as he goes up like this, Joel Embiid's force is coming, and he ended up falling. Like, I truly do believe that the Sixers fan base is taking this to this wild extreme, that it was so terrible. Oh, it was just the worst. Oh, LeBron James is just terrible. There's a reason why he hasn't had a flagrant foul in how many years of his career, and it's not because, oh, the NBA is trying to save LeBron James and they're doing it just to protect LeBron. No, there's a reason why that's the situation that's at hand here. So that's just my opinion on it. But with Danny Green, he was dynamite. He was a phenomenal player in this game, and I love it. Every time he drains a three and hits nothing but net, I just picture myself flipping off every single person that wanted Danny Green out of here for so long, for such an irrational reason, because a shooter was going through a little bit of a downward spot in his career when you traded Al Horford for him. I mean, people act as if you gave up Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to go get Danny Green, and then Danny Green was underperforming. The same people that bitched and complained about Al Horford and you can never move him are the same people that were bitching and complaining about Danny Green have a couple of bad games or a stretch of bad games when you knew historically throughout his entire career he was a fantastic player and that you just got to work with him. There's a reason why in an 82-game season, I know this year's 72, but in a regular season journey, guys have ups and downs. Guys have good stretches, guys have bad stretches. Championship teams have bad runs, they got great runs. That's just reality of it. You went through a Danny Green downward spiral. Now you're going on an upward spiral. Is he going to be giving you 8 threes a game in the playoffs? No, he's not. This isn't who he's going to be forever, but the importance of his role is so valuable that people don't understand. It's incredible to me that people don't see that. That's my problem. So with that all being said, I do want to let you guys know real quickly, as I pull out my read here, I had the wrong read sheet, about my friends over at Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Their solar program eliminates your electric bill completely. So make sure you check out their information. It's all down below in the description. Thank you guys all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.